Hey everyone, welcome. I know it's been a little bit of time, but I wanted to bring Turbo back because clearly we've had a lot going on in the last 2 months, and who better to pick their brain and get their expertise on things than Turbo. Plus, I just kind of missed hanging out and talking to her
Yeah.
from our
Hello.
17-hour series we did on the July and August hearings.
You
So
having your straw,
I
Aspen?
will, first of all, say hello. I will say hello, Turbo.
Hello,
And I
Aspen.
would caution you not to giggle, not to giggle too much
No
because people
laughing
don't like
allowed.
that.
Yeah, apparently.
No laughing allowed. So now that that's out of the way, I just wanted to say a very stern hello, and
Okay,
I
let
thank
me
you
put my.
for taking time out of your day to join me.
Thanks for having me. I'll be very serious. Does that work?
Okay,
Okay.
it works absolutely perfectly, I think. So there's been a lot in the last, let's see, month and a half, 2 months, I guess, since we recorded a video together. We're not going to, of course, cover all of that today, but we thought we'd just go over a few of the most recent events or filings in the Delphi case and give you our thoughts and insight into them. One of them will include kind of an overview of like how the jury selection thing is expected to go down, and the details that I don't think a lot of people have touched on. And then we'll also talk about the motion in limine that was filed by the state this week in regards to a potential defense expert. So other than that, I think we'll probably just do a little bit of chat and wrap up. But is there anything that you wanted to say before we kind of get into it, Turbo?
Oh, we're gonna briefly
I hope
touch
so.
on. We're gonna briefly touch on the Nick's objection to the motion by the defense to visit the crime scene to take the jury there. We'll touch briefly on that filing. The filings we're going to touch on today are the ones that just came out late yesterday afternoon, and we're going to do 3 of 4 of them.
Well, you're saying yesterday, like as if we were gonna upload this immediately, and we both know that could be like tonight or tomorrow.
Oh,
So
okay. Well, it just
let's just say this week.
Okay. Well, that's commitment. Okay, yeah, no, that's it. It's go time. It looks like we're having a trial. Barring
Absolutely.
some last minute continuance request, this thing's going to trial next month.
Well, no, I never want to be one to pat myself on the back, but I mean, who has said who has maintained that since August?
You convinced me finally. A few days ago, you finally convinced me that the defense isn't going to file for continuance. But I just want to say,
I'm so glad considering the jury selection starts in 15 days.
I just want to say for the record that if there's a continuance filed, I think
then I'll look like an idiot.
No, I think that they will base that on the new cell phone extraction evidence that they have from Cecil for Libby's phone. That'll be one of the reasons, and of course, a lot of spin will go with that. That's my opinion.
Right, and we could do an entire episode on whether or not they're. I mean, I've said I've told you for a month or 2 months, 2 months probably, that go unless there's something irrefutable. I mean, Goal's under no obligation to approve another continuance.
Yep.
She's already approved multiple, and I don't see her being as lenient when it comes to postponing this trial again.
Right.
But that's just my opinion. And
Now, I
I
will
especially
say,
don't see her. I especially don't see her allowing it 2 weeks before we're supposed to have jury selection beginning in Allen County.
yeah. Um, well,
And,
in May we were right at the I mean, it was supposed to start the following week on May 7th. So, never say never.
there was a whole different landscape back then. Back
Okay.
then back then we lived in a world full of Facebook pages and we knew of this magical place called Rushville, Indiana. Um, and we were talking about people buying tons and tons of fish, but no fish food, and red jeeps, and a father son, you know, excursion to the woods. Um,
Oh.
and those things aren't in our vernacular anymore, as of right
Hey,
now.
guess what? We tossed away the magical thinking.
Oh no, I'll never toss away magical thinking. I will always hold magical thinking near and dear to my heart because I believe in it.
Lies. We won't get into that.
She wrote the book on it,
All of
but and and good for her, very qualified in her profession. I But again, that's just not the world that we live in today. In May, that those were more of a factor, and again, Gull hadn't already in May, she hadn't approved multiple continuances. I think at that point there had been two, not
Mhm.
necessarily because either party requested them. I think that the first one, remember if I remember correctly, the original, like the very original trial dates were set for.
January.
No, there was one before then. Um, so when
October.
Alan was arrested in October of 2022, I believe that the original trial dates were they set for March of 2023,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they got pushed back,
Well, yeah.
and then to was it did they get pushed back to October and then January, or did they get pushed back to January?
I just remember January. The only reason I'm
Yeah,
saying October is because of the CCS on my case. There's a bunch of stuff canceled there for October, I thought, of
right. And I
2020.
yeah, and I don't mean to get sidetracked. I just like
Yeah.
my point was that this case has been continued
Yeah.
multiple times,
Well,
and I don't see her being as lenient the fourth or fifth time,
yeah.
especially with you know the cost and the logistics that go into housing a jury, and just I
Mhm.
mean, we've talked about it before, all of the moving pieces involved. I don't think that she would approve it, nor do I actually think the defense nor the prosecutor are going to want it. I think at this point they are all kind of resolved to the fact that they want to go to trial in October, whether that be smart or not,
Right. Um,
in my
I've heard
opinion.
I've heard it mentioned by I think it was Kara Weineke had mentioned about this being a practice trial. She had made a statement of some sort on
There,
her Twitter account about
I think that I would say that's probably a popular sentiment by a lot of people, is that regardless of the outcome of this trial, well, I mean, if he's acquitted, then it would not be a practice trial, but that if there is a conviction, I know there's a large contingency of people that do just wholeheartedly believe that regardless of any jury verdict or evidence that comes out by the state, that this is essentially a practice trial. and that'll be up for if he's convicted, that will be up for an appellate court to decide one day. Right now, I think we should all just focus on
Going to
this
trial.
trial,
Yep.
whether it be real or practice.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. So I think we're going to start with our jury selection that's going to take place in Allen County, in Fort Wayne, at the Allen County Superior Courthouse.
Oh, you might have to pull that back up. There we go.
Yep. Hang on 1 second. Okay. Is that good? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so we're looking at 3 days now. Judge Gull had mentioned. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, if for anyone watching, if you can't read that, we're we will go over the important parts, so it's just on screen for reference.
Yeah. So we're looking to hold jury selection. The 600 questionnaires had gone out. They've had their responses, and both the state and the defense are in the process of going through those questionnaires and the responses to prepare for voir dire. Both sides, Judge Gull has ruled that both sides are allowed to have a 5-minute address to the potential jurors during this process. There's going to be 2 seatings per day, 50 prospective jurors at a time, in the morning and in the afternoon. So she did express at the pretrial hearings that we would see, I think it was the pretrial hearings or May 7th, that she was going to run 100 jurors per day. Now, originally, when they received back 450 responses when this thing was going to go to trial.
Yeah. Right.
She had indicated at one of the hearings in Fort Wayne at that time that they had 450 responses out of the 600. So they had a very good response at that time. So hopefully they've had similar results. And Aspen, you and I were discussing this on, like, do we really think they're going to get through, if they had 450? Well, I don't think so. I mean, they're basing 100 per day. She's allowed for 3 days for this process. And I think that's,
so presumably there's.
Go ahead.
Oh, it's just so presumably there's, they're going to be interviewing 300 potential witnesses over those 3 days.
Jurors, yeah.
Is what, I would deduce, but yeah, I'm sorry, jurors, over those 3 days.
Right. So I guess we're going to talk about, I'll change the screen now. We're going to talk about, so of course we know we have the number of jurors as being 12. I've got the Indiana jury rules up here under rule number 16. So we're looking at 12 jurors for this trial, and we're also going to be looking at the peremptory challenges that each side, both the state and the defense, have available to them. So the state and the defense each get 20 preemptive strikes to rule out a juror.
Quickly, can I just wanted to preface this with a lot of the, what Turbo's about to say is the stuff that, I didn't know originally until we, looked this up. So like, these are some of the details that, I haven't really heard a lot of people talk about. So I just wanted to like point that out before you started talking about these details.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we neither one of us knew the answer, so I did pull up the jury rules. How many are they allowed to just say no? We don't want you without giving a reason. So this is what is referred to as And I'll just show you here. It's a peremptory challenge. So it's the legal right during the jury selection for the attorney to reject a certain number of potential jurors without stating a reason. So both sides have 20 each. So now, one thing I
Okay.
didn't look up yet, Aspen, is what qualifies as the. I guess, like, I mean, I don't know exactly how it works. Like, do they just start bringing them up onto the stand according to how do they select who starts going up to be questioned?
Well, I mean, from the jury questionnaires that they got back, I mean, my
Oh,
understanding is that they chose the 300 um, most suitable jurors. And I think both parties do get um, a hand in, like, picking which. Um, well, actually, no, I don't know if the court decides that, or if the attorneys do get a say so in that. Now, I know that, like, when it comes to the questions, I believe those are pretty set, as far as, like, the types of questions they're allowed to ask. And if they want to go beyond that, they have to, I believe, do an offer of proof to where they explain why they're gonna, like, go beyond the normal scope of their questioning. Um, but something you normally see in jury selection is, of course, you know, um, you know, each side is going to look at jurors that are going to benefit them, of course. So that can fall into any category, as far as, like, the defense might not want, the mother of a 13 or 14-year-old daughter on the jury. In other cases, it's become racial based. There are cases where, people don't want, you know, young men on the jury. So it just depends on the actual trial, and there's a million different factors as to why and how each side is going to um, use and I call it their vetoes.
right.
Um, but they are each side is allowed, the 20, um, kind of without question. And then, when it comes to the other ones that are in debate, I think, things could get contentious. Things could, get heated. There'll be a back and forth. But at the end of the day, they both sides know they have to get down to 12 jurors, and however many alternates the judge decides to assign in this case, which hopefully is is enough that if something were to, like, come about or happen, that we have alternates.
Right. So Judge Gall is going to be the one deciding how many alternates are to be taken.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question for you for process, and I definitely have to look up more on this, but you probably know from following other cases maybe. So let's say we bring in the morning seating of the first day of jury selection. We bring in the 50 jurors. They're all going to come
Mm-hmm.
in, right? They're going to come into the gallery?
As well, I mean, I think they'll bring them in. They'll bring them in groups. You've been to the Allen County Courthouse, which is where
Yes.
jury selection is taking place at. And I I don't believe they will have all 50 of the jurors come in at the same time. I think they'll bring them in batches.
Okay.
Because I also don't think they want the questions and answers of all the other jurors to have any impact or influence on the other jurors, because at the end of the day, these are still human beings. Sociology plays a huge part in a jury, especially when they're sequestered. And these 12 individuals, and however many alternates, they're going to be thrust into each other's lives for the better part of a month and a half. And not only any month and a half, they're going to be potentially missing Halloween with their children. They're going to be spending one of the most contentious presidential elections in U.S. history together. there are a lot of factors that could go into this jury not getting along or getting along swimmingly. And so I don't think that it's in anyone's best interest for any of the jurors to start getting preconceived notions of each other based on the questioning that they're asked in jury selection. Sorry, that was a very drawn out
No,
answer to
it's
that,
good.
but
No.
that's just my take on it. I could be completely wrong.
Right. Well, so they bring so they bring in a batch of them and they're seated. I know that the seating is has been in her order that I was showing. Um we've got very specific information about the seating. Now there's only 6 let's see if I can find it here. There's only 6 seats assigned for the
5.
families. 6 at
Oh,
the
so
back.
for
Yep, for the families, and then 5 media passes, and then the remaining seats at the back will be allowed for here it is, will be allowed for the public. So yeah, victim representative are seated and the defendant's family is seated in 6 reserved seats in the back of the courtroom. The credentialed media is allotted 5 seats to be divided at their discretion. The court will not mediate any dispute regarding the seating. So then the remaining court room seating at the back is available until full. So in Allen County, in the gallery, you've got your 4 rows on each side, I believe, for the hard seats. There was 9 in each row, if I'm not mistaken. And then you
okay,
have your bench seating at the back.
yeah, I've
They
never
have
been there.
hard, yeah, so they have hard bench.
Okay,
So it's quite a bit bigger than Delphi for seating, than the Carroll County Courthouse. But so that's what makes me think that they are bringing in 50 at a time. Like, in other words, you're scheduled to be there for, you're either in the morning or the afternoon session. You're scheduled. Here's your time. You go in, and then they're gonna do their 5-minute. What is it officially called? I forget what. But anyway, Judge Gull has ordered that the
kind of an
state,
opening statement.
yeah, like an opening statement to present to the jury, and of course, and I'll note it
So will they
again.
do that for each? Well, here it was. So maybe I'm going to contradict myself now, but I don't imagine that they're going to do that for each batch of jurors. So maybe they will bring all 50 of them in and do an opening statement, but they're still going to have to do that 6 times if they're going to be interviewing 300 potential jurors.
Yeah, that's right. They are. Yep, that's the way I see it. That's the way I see that. Like, I think that's what's gonna. I think that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Myself, just because of the
So yeah.
seating.
So
Yeah. But what I was gonna say is now these the address that's made to the potential jurors is the only chance that both sides are gonna have to make a connection with these potential jurors outside of the scope of what they're going to be allowed to present at trial and everything else. And I'll just say it again, and I did mention it in our previous episodes when we covered the 3-day hearings, but Andrew Baldwin specifically is very well known for being very good at doing this. And
I can see that.
yeah, and he even asked when they made that filing to get these addresses to the potential jurors. I think he asked for 2 or 3 minutes and 2 minutes, and she ended up giving them each 5.
Right.
So
And
for those that say, the naysayers about Judge Gall, that was a major win for the defense. I don't know if they picked up on that.
it was
But
fair.
he's known for this, and it's his specialty. So
Right.
it's kind of outside of this. My understanding is it's outside of the scope of what they're limited to say. So if he's able to connect with a couple of them and plant the seeds of doubt regarding what he's not allowed to talk about, at
Well,
trial, like, it's
but
a big deal. It's a big deal.
right, but but there can there can be an immediate objection, like like let's just for example say if the defense were to say to one of the potential jurors, um, you know, have you ever been interested in a Nordic religion? the I mean, I guarantee you Stacy Diener or Nick McClelland or James Luttrell will be on their feet faster than you or I could, spell mustache. And they would have an objection
Yeah.
because for, technically since that's been not allowed, they would then have to the defense would then have to offer they would have to do an offer of proof
So
to
I'm not talking about, yeah,
no,
so
I
I'm
know
not
you're not, but
talking
I'm
about
saying, but so
technically the juror.
they are still very limited on what they can discuss. I mean, they could literally have a juror in there with a Thor's hammer tattoo on his cheek, um, and I think that I mean that of course, I don't know if that is gonna if that would be a positive or a negative for the defense, but that that could be a specific reason that they could be like, oh well, here's our opportunity to let me see if I can get this in, but they can't just outright be like, so are you an odinist?
Yeah, no. But I'm just specifically referring to the 5 minutes that he's allotted to do his spiel.
Right,
His opening statement, so to speak. And
correct.
I wonder if they have to be submitted to the judge beforehand. That's a good
i
question for an
doubt
attorney.
i doubt that,
Probably not, but
but I will say, I mean, I of course I'm not a lawyer. I'm not qualified to to speak as a lawyer, of course, but but I do understand a lot about human connectivity, and I will say that if I were in the position of choosing who was going to give a statement that's going to create the first impression to a jury pool, Andrew Baldwin is absolutely the person from the defense that I would have present that. And Nick McClelland is absolutely the person from the prosecution that I would have present that. I feel like they are the two most connective, natural
yeah.
um, parties,
Mhm.
in this, in this case. And I think they both have a very different, but a very effective ability to kind of connect with humans in a very
Absolutely.
natural, like just very
Charismatic.
cat. I mean, they're very charismatic, but you don't. But it doesn't seem forced. It doesn't seem showy. It just seems. I mean, Baldwin's a little bit folksier in his approach to it, but that connects with people very well. And Nick's confidence and his charisma comes off.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, it kind of like just oozes off of them. To be honest, in court, whether you like him or not, it does. And he connects with people very easily.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with
So
all of that.
not and
Everything.
that's not to discredit any of the other attorneys from either side. I'm just saying if I had to pick one from each side to give the first impression to a jury,
Yeah.
those are the two I would pick. Absolutely.
So
So okay, I
I
think
do.
you said that the so Alan's family gets 6 seats. Um, I believe then did you say the media is allotted 5 seats?
Yeah. Yeah. So they have to decide
And
amongst
in
themselves.
Indiana, no,
Pardon? You cut out there a
I was
bit.
just saying that when it was the media is allotted 5 slots and or 5 seats, and in Indiana, when they use the term media in court, um, in this instance, media is not always well defined in every state. In Indiana, it actually has a very specific definition. So, that doesn't pertain to YouTubers. It doesn't pertain to podcasters. It doesn't pertain to new media. That those 5 seats are specifically referring to traditional media sources. So you're going to have your WRTV or WH. Oh my goodness, why am I drawing a blank? WHTR. Yeah, and then Indy 4. You're going to have Fox 59. You're going to have those.
Wish TV and Fox 59,
Yeah.
Court
So,
TV.
but they're all going, but they're only getting it 5 seats, and so they'll have to
Yeah.
decide apparently among themselves who's going to get those 5 seats. I said that
Yeah,
doesn't mean that you can't wait in line.
right. Yeah, they can still get in. Anybody that isn't designated as one of the 5 media can still have the opportunity to participate in the hearings for the jury selection if they're able to obtain a public seat.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I believe, they'll have it said, I think the order said there will be extremely limited seating for the public for jury selection.
Yes.
So, just like the trial, I mean, for anyone that's expecting to go and get in, I would not hinge your plans around that every day.
No. I'm hearing that there's going to be extremely limited seating for the public at the trial, and it's definitely going to be an issue. So I don't know. What do you think? You think we're going to end up getting an audio feed on that trial, or?
Well, I mean, that I'm like I'm the one insane person left in the world that thinks that there's going to be a camera. And when I'm wrong, I'll admit I'm wrong. But I have maintained all along that I believe there will be a camera in that courtroom, and not covered up with a bag, because I mean, technically there will be there will be 3. I just I'm just it depends if they're functioning that day, but I do think that she's still going to have a camera. Yeah. I don't really see her going half in with the audio thing, but I know some people have suggested that, and I can see both sides of the coin with that one, because selfishly, of course, I want there to be cameras. I don't know if I am able to end up going to Indiana next month for trial. Of course, I would like to sit in the courtroom, but if that's not possible, absolutely, I want to watch it on TV. So when I want there to be cameras, that's of course me being selfish, but I do understand the other side of it as well, and the circus atmosphere that this will already be, and the heightened state of that cameras could actually bring about. Not to mention, in the past, people haven't been able to behave themselves, and not that and not that those things should be not that those things. Someone pointed out to me last night, and it's a very good point, that a judge's ruling should never be as a punishment for something like that.
No.
But and they were right. But it is, I'm sure, disheartening when you continually give a decorum order and people violate it repeatedly, regardless of what it is.
Well, I do think that there are. I know that it's been expressed that the families of I believe the families of both Libby and Abby are against there being cameras in the courtroom, and also Richard Allen's side as well. Their families are against it. I think that Judge Gall would take that into consideration, but I don't think that it would affect her ruling on this. And I do agree with you that there's a possibility, like you think for sure it's going to happen. I think there's a pretty good possibility that we're going to have video. Hopefully, I think at the very least, we'll have an audio. I think that's a good compromise. I think that
Right.
a video feed is possible if it's fully controlled by her and her staff, and with
Mhm.
possibly a delay. And and at the very least, if they have some sort of an overflow room for those that are local in Delphi, whether they're media, uh, general public,
Can't be on
family
site.
members, whomever, that are able to go and listen slash watch the court proceedings without fighting tooth and nail to get a seat inside that courtroom. And then secondary to that would be just a general public broadcast of it all, a streaming, even a streaming. They definitely have the capabilities. We see it there on, if you go to my case, you can find the link where there is a link for the stream. And don't forget, of course, Judge Gall was one of 6 judges in the state of Indiana
The pilot.
that did trial runs for cameras in the courtroom. So
Absolutely.
this is a very contentious issue for her, because she's a big proponent of it, really.
Right.
So,
And
for transparency. The rules haven't been followed. There's been so many issues with what has gone on. And when you have, specifically, I mean, it was Court TV with the feed that published
well,
things that she, against her instructions, back in October of 2023. And that was the end of it. Now, just because she hasn't allowed any of the media outlets to access a live feed doesn't mean that she isn't going to provide something,
right. And like I said, and I understand that, my optimism towards there being a camera in that courtroom. Like I understand that, I will be 99% of me, will not be surprised if there's not.
Mhm,
I've just maintained that I've thought all along that that she'll have one.
mhm.
Um, but I'm in no way saying that, I know something, or that, I'm right, because I understand I'm in the minority. I'm probably wrong. I'm just being optimistic about it. I think that, because I think cameras, and I think cameras should be in every courtroom for every trial. I think that there's nothing bad about being as transparent as possible.
Mhm.
And saying that, I do understand the flip side of it, that it can create more of a circus environment. But I still think that that's worth the cost when it comes to providing a transparent court process.
Right.
Um,
One thing I did want to add, just my own personal thought, is I could see it being beneficial even for family members of of Libby and Abby, and also of Rick Allen, to be able to be in the comfort of their own home during testimony that could be very traumatizing and upsetting to them, and not be in a public setting. So I do think that
right,
that's one benefit that I don't really hear a lot of people speaking about it, but I have felt this way myself. I mean, I could see a scenario where, that would be what I would want. So I'm just
right.
saying that, it's, if it does happen, it's not, I know that the right thing, I feel that the right thing will happen regardless. I mean, I
Right.
just,
Well,
I maintain hope that there'll be some sort of a feed, even if it's only audio. But you're probably right. She's probably not just gonna do. But okay, but I do want to mention, what are your thoughts on this $70,000 multimedia um platform that they bought? It was on the expense breakdown from Carroll County. Oh no, I lost you. Oh shit. Okay.
Are you there?
Yeah.
I apologize. I got cut off really quick. And I do have to go in just a minute, but we'll do a part two to this. I I was saying that, I don't know if there's a right answer, because it's technically whatever Judge Gold decides, and people, can agree with that or disagree with that, and both of those are fair, in my opinion. You know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
But as far as like the rest of the things we'll talk about, we'll do a part two. And is there anything you wanted to say about jury selection before we wrap up?
There were a few things, but well, we'll just start another one, Aspen, and then we'll splice it.
Okay. Okay. Well, then I will see you in a bit.
Okay. Bye.